And here we are. Welcome back to episode 24 of the Unlimited Range podcast. I am Jack. This is my dad, Dean. And what's the word?
Hey, the word is it's Christmas time, Jack.
It is Christmas time,
It's Christmas
and it's a
time.
great time of year. And I don't want to go launch into this too hard, but we were just kind of talking before, and it kind of does. It's not officially our fan question of the week, but I thought it'd be a good place to start. Um, Christmas music. Are you in full swing with that? You got it on
I
around
just
the house?
I actually just separated my Christmas playlist into two separate playlists. One for mellow Christmas music and one for upbeat Christmas music.
Do you want
There's
to?
nothing like there's nothing like having a nice just trying to chill out, and then all of a sudden they just go jamming into something, or vice versa. You're like, yeah, I want to get something to. I'm making some Christmas cookies or something, and you get something that's really kind of slow, and you're like, and that doesn't really fit the
Yeah,
mood.
and we've never. It's not. It wasn't a segue I was expecting, but I don't think we've ever talked about it on here. Do you want to tell our viewers, domestic and international, about kind of your music? You have a lot of music. You've been doing music for. When did you start really compiling your auto tunes? When was that?
Auto tunes, you mean like
Or no,
with
no, sorry, not auto tunes. When you started doing, because you used to make CDs, and then at some point you
right
transitioned to iTunes. Was what I was trying to say.
iTunes? Yeah, so I probably I had a lot of things off of CD, and I downloaded. Not really downloaded, but yeah, I got a number of stuff that's on hard drive somewhere. Probably got 10,000 songs on hard drive somewhere, but that's really not
How
the way you
deep's your
listen to
Christmas
music anymore.
playlist?
A couple hundred songs. It's not too terribly. I tried to go through my Christmas music that I had on like hard drive and pick my favorite ones out, and I ended up with about 200 or so.
It's not bad. Yeah, because you can't have too many because I think we've all been there where somebody's playing like really Christmas music is kind of hard if you're compiling a playlist because there's a lot of really if you get into it because my Christmas playlist is probably about 150 songs. Um, it's like you don't want to listen to the same four Christmas songs on repeat all the time because that can be
Right.
a lot. Like if Jingle Bell Rock's coming on like every 5 minutes, that's kind of overkill. But there's some really bad Christmas music. There is some atrocious Christmas music out
Yeah,
there.
I don't think you just. I think if you have the ability to do some sort of a curated list, you should do that. It's worth the time and effort to go through and pick it. Or you can go
Yeah.
onto Spotify. I think go on Spotify and find someone else's Christmas list. Although I was listening to something today just to see if there's things I've missed on my Christmas, playlist, and there was a lot of stuff on there like, ugh, yeah, that's not so good.
What's so we were talking about it earlier. And I'm not sure there's an exact answer to this one, but I guess I can start. I would say there's a couple Christmas songs I really like. There's a song This Christmas by I don't know if Chicago was the first to do it, but This Christmas by Chicago, I really like that one. And then it's hard to go. I love the Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas Is You. That's probably my favorite one.
Well, I mean, I think with you growing up in the same house, that and Dan Fogelberg. Sorry
Oh
about the
yeah.
lighting here. Old Lang Syne was always a good one. Now my lighting's really bad. Shoot, I'll just leave it
Guys,
where it
this
was
is what
at.
you get from a non-professionally produced
Yeah.
podcast. If you're watching this, this is
Oh
this
boy.
is this is as good as it gets.
This is
This is
if you don't have the video on right now, turn it on. And see, oh, now there's a cat in the background. It's all going crazy. So yeah,
this is what
Old Lang
happens when you
Syne.
don't have a studio. This is what happens when you're not filming in a studio. This
I
is
know.
it right here,
I
behind the
mean,
scenes.
I think Old Lang Syne was a great one, and actually, one of my I found it. I don't remember where I found it on some kind of EP or something when I had it on my hard drive, but it's hard to find on Spotify. But Michael Bublé has a version of
Oh,
Grown Up Christmas List.
mhm.
That's one of my favorites, and some of the Jim Brinkman stuff or Brickman stuff I think is really great.
What's
He
the
has
other song on There is that one, the one you just mentioned, and I don't know how I forgot about the Michael Bublé Christmas album there for a second, because that's that whole album is awesome. But what's I'm looking it up as we're here. There's another one. Oh, Christmas, Please Come Home from him on that album, and I like
Oh,
that song in general. Obviously, that one's been done a lot of times, but I really like that one. Um, yeah, that whole album by him is good.
yeah, and
Um,
actually, but Grown Up Christmas List is not on that album, but you can find it somewhere. And so I would encourage you to look around for it. Don't settle for the Amy Grant version. His is better.
Yeah, and I think regardless of where our international viewers are coming from, I'm assuming most of them celebrate Christmas. So this should go for all of our viewers.
I do have an
Um,
international trivia question for that maybe our international people will have a better shot at answering than our domestic audience. So
yeah, and I was just about to send
teaser,
you there. So
teaser for that.
well, I was just about to loop you into that. So for Dean's trivia question of the week, and I feel like I don't have to say it anymore necessarily because um, we are on episode 24, but we also have a low view count, so you never know if you're going to get a new audience. This is trivia question of the week. Dean's going to ask us a trivia question. We're going to wait till the end of the show to provide the answer. So stay tuned. So go ahead and give us your trivia question of the week for episode 24.
All right. The trivia question this week is: what fast food is a popular tradition in Japan? What
Popular,
fast food?
popular like Christmas tradition.
Yes, it's a Christmas tradition in Japan to get this type of fast food from a particular establishment of which
Yeah. So
they
you're
would
looking
also,
for the restaurant. You're looking for like
yeah,
the restaurant they go to.
looking for the restaurant. Yeah.
Is it a particular food item?
It started out as one particular food item. I think they've actually branched out at this fast food establishment has branched out some of their other offerings,
So there's
but
other options, but it started as one option.
correct.
Okay. So guys, the question is, what fast food? I guess we'll just go with the establishment. Are
Mhm.
a large chunk of people in Japan, and if you're from Japan, please wait till the end of the show and don't spoil the fun. Even though I don't know how you would spoil it. So that's the question of the week. And then I think we'll pivot and go right into our viewer question of the week. Thanks to our one of our loyal viewers who will remain nameless, who has submitted a question for this week, and it's a good question. How slash when, or I guess just the story of when you found out Santa wasn't real.
Oh gosh,
And I had the question ahead of time, so if you want me to go first, I can.
I think you should. I mean, I think you
Okay.
should.
I don't really have like a specific one. I think for me, uh, I believed it maybe longer than other people did, probably. So I think I was in either the third or fourth grade, and uh, I just remember being really. I wasn't upset's not the right word, but I think everyone else was saying about how, like, it was at lunch, and everybody was saying about how their parents were going to get them this or that, and I was talking about how like what Santa was going to get me, and everyone was saying, everyone at the table was kind of like, that's not a thing, and I was like, well, of course it is. Of course it's a thing. And so I think it was less of an official thing. It wasn't really like a sit down, like I guess maybe a lot of people have in their history. It was more of a thing. I think
Hmm.
everybody else, I don't know when you typically are supposed to find out, maybe like second grade or first grade, but I think it went on until about fourth grade for me.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And I think there's the whole thing with the Santa Claus thing is like um, you really might believe there is a Santa Claus, and then you kind of figure out that there isn't. But do you really want to believe that there is still?
Yeah. And
So
I think that's a better way to put it. I'm sure at that point, I logically probably knew that that doesn't make any sense, but it's more of a thing. You're still that age where like you want to believe that Santa does exist, and so I was probably like, it was probably more of that. It was probably more of like in my head, I knew he wasn't really a guy, wasn't flying around and giving presents to everybody in the whole entire world. But I still like wanted it to be real.
yeah, I mean, you had a mother that actually probably perpetuated that quite a bit. So she she enjoyed having presents coming from Santa and presents coming from these people and that. So it kind of made it easier
Made it
to
more of a
believe, I
challenge, more of an uphill battle there.
think. Yeah, yeah, maybe. I do remember. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember when you guys. I don't know if you and Maggie were like 3 and 4 years old, or maybe a little bit older, and the kids across the street came over and because their parents had decided that Christmas Eve was the best time of the year to tell your kids that Santa doesn't really exist. And so Hayden and his little sisters came over and dumped the news on you guys that on New Year's Eve that there was no such thing as Santa Claus. Their parents just sat them down and explained that all to them, and your mom was devastated. Um,
What about
I
you? Do
think
you
you guys
remember?
were too. There was a lot of crying and everything, but I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that?
No, I don't have. I know they say you start like really maybe remembering stuff around the 3 year mark. I think they say like
Yeah.
3 to 4 is when you really start to form. I don't really remember a lot of stuff pre like 10. I have like if somebody says something, it might like jog my memory, but I don't have vivid memories usually of like conversations prior to that time. Do
No,
you
I don't
remember?
really. No, I
Do you
don't really
remember?
either.
Do you remember that for you when you found out?
No, I don't. I don't even remember how much it was encouraged or not encouraged. And yeah, I wish I could. I do remember that. I mean, there was one story. I don't remember it happening because I think I was like 2 or 3 years old. But I'd actually taken a ball, one of those glass balls, off the tree and shoved it in my mouth. Um, and somehow my dad fished it out of there without any kind of having to go to the emergency room because it could have like honestly chopped up the whole inside of my mouth. But I don't remember that. I wish.
Were you a little like were you a guy that just stuck stuff in his mouth?
uh,
Was that
Apparently, at least that time I was. I don't know if I did. There was quite a bit of difference in age between me and your uncle Dave, so there was he kind of had different stuff he was getting versus what I was getting. But yeah, I don't remember too many. There was some
well,
different games that we
and
got and such. They were
I don't
fun,
know, and
but
to that point too, I think it was I don't know. I was talking to Natalie about this the other day. I think one of the things in our house that other people maybe did differently or whatever is like um I think Santa was important in our house growing up at least because I think like um at Christmas we got a lot of stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily just get. I know a lot of people did things differently and it didn't really matter as much to them whether Santa was real or not, but I think
right,
from what I remember growing up, like we didn't just get a bunch of random shit throughout the year. So it's like, oh,
right,
Santa's coming and we're going to get like, get a new Xbox or something and that sort of thing. So it was like I wasn't really it's not like I was devastated when I found out he wasn't real, but I think like you said, keeping it for kids, yeah, I've never understood the approach of like you I don't want my kid going around believing Santa's real. It's like why
yeah.
like
You
at some point they're gonna figure it out and like whatever, but like why not let it be fun for them as long as it can be. Like I remember there were kids like in like first grade and like kindergarten being like Santa's not real. It's like, well, we know your parents are curmudgeons.
well, it's just because those kids then like to try to spoil it for
Yeah.
everybody else, whether they realize it or not. There's like, yeah, like you're, oh yeah, that's not real. What are you, a dummy? Or something more salty than that, and some kind of commentary, or anyway, any kind of way to make fun of somebody else. Oh, Timmy still believes in Santa Claus. So yeah, I think
Well,
that's
and I think that plays into why I kept that going for as long because I like to give those kids a kid taste their own medicine to a degree. Like,
yeah,
they thought it's kind of like a bullying style attitude. Like, you dummy, you still believe in Santa. It's like, well, what are you going to do about it? I still believe in him.
yeah.
So yeah, so I agree with you there. I don't think there's any reason to really I mean, okay, if your kid's like a freshman in high school and he's running around making himself look like a fool because he's still saying Santa's bringing him presents, then maybe you sit him down and be like, "Hey, you're kind of opening yourself up to some bullying here because this isn't real." But you don't need to sit your second grader down and be like, "Hey, look, kid, this is how the world works." Um, so yeah, I think we're on the same page. Let's pivot here to um, we've got the college football playoff kicking off Friday, a couple days from now. And we're not going to really go through and like do spreads and picks and all that sort of thing, but kind of just a general layout. First, I think I don't know if we've talked on here about the whole playoff system yet, but I think it looks like it's going to be a really exciting opening weekend. I think this whole system is much improved by the fact there's much more teams, three times the amount of teams, and the matchups look really good. We've got Indiana, Notre Dame, SMU, Penn State, Clemson, and Texas, and Tennessee at Ohio State. So those look like some really good games this weekend, and I'm looking forward to it. What about you?
No, I'm extremely looking forward to it. I'm a Penn State guy, as you know, and but I think some of the other matchups are super intriguing. I mean, it's everybody loves to see at least the Catholic population loves to see Notre Dame in there. They want to try and get them in there every year, even if they don't belong. This year they're in, and nobody had any questions about putting them in there, so they're in, and they can do what see what they can do against IU. I think IU's got is just playing with house money. It's kind of a fun thing to see. I think the pressure's on Notre Dame to go out and win that game, and I think that's going to play into IU's hands. Um, they ran into a tough Ohio State team as their only loss. That's really been their hardest game on their schedule. So there's a lot of scheduling questions, and I just think um, I think you're going to see some change. You're going to have to see some changes. I said last night when we were out with some friends, I think the college football, the top 60 teams or whatever, I think are going to go form their own league and get a commissioner and just bop out of the NCAA. This whole transfer portal thing and all those kind of things, they want to. If it was run independently of the NCAA, I think it would be even a better product. Um,
Yeah, I agree with you. Um, I agree with you. My thing on this new and improved playoff, I think at the very least, um, is that, and I've talked to people about this. I think the nice thing about this format is like, one thing that I think has been bad for college football, maybe forever, but certainly even since the first iteration of the playoff came out, is I feel like it's not necessarily there's questions about who's the best team, but there's questions about the way it plays out, especially because in previous years there's been a number of snubs or there's been a number of teams that got put in, like UC, Cincinnati, alma mater,
right.
and then they got dog walked, and then TCU actually won their first game, but then got obliterated in the championship. And there's been some other stuff like that. FSU not making it because their quarterback went down and stuff like that. And I think at the very least, the great thing about this current format is that sure you can maybe argue some of the seating stuff. You can have conversations about like where somebody was seated, but at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to get a lot of pushback on the fact that these teams deserve to be in there. There might be a couple fringe teams that didn't make it or whatever else, but I think the great thing about the NCAA tournament in basketball is I've never heard anybody questioning the result because you have 64 teams that make this field. So truly, I mean, yeah, you can argue seeding, but like if you're good enough, you're going to win. You're going to win out, right? If you're good enough to win the championship, you're going to win your first round matchup. So I think that part of it makes it for me as a viewer that makes it more fun because I don't like when you're going back and doing revisionist history like, oh, this team won the championship but they shouldn't have even been in there, or this team won the championship but they didn't have to play this other team, and you have all these kind of unanswered questions. And I feel like by having 12 teams, there's no real argument outside of maybe one or two teams like that they deserve to be in there. And when you look
Yeah,
at this,
yeah, I heard some stuff about Alabama and South Carolina, and I think those should be easily dismissed. Like, listen, you weren't there. I mean, Clemson getting in and winning that ACC championship kind of made it challenging because I think they probably would have put like Alabama in there if they could have. But I think the 12 teams they picked are the right teams. I love it that Boise and SMU are in there. I think it just gives some of these schools and IU
well,
is,
and you
is
don't have to have those. You don't. It doesn't force you to have those conversations of like, yeah, Boise State's good, but they didn't play anybody because it doesn't matter because
right,
because there's 12 teams, so you have room. You have room for two or three of those teams that like their strength of schedule may not be the best, and they might get beat. They might get they might get just crushed, but they at least earned that opportunity. I think it's fair they get to play for it. Whereas in the prior system, you had to make some of those cuts. You had to say to yourself, like, yes, on paper, this team maybe deserves to be in, but we just know they're going to get killed. And it's like now it doesn't matter if Boise goes out and gets killed, it doesn't matter because they still deserve to be there. Um, and you're not cutting somebody else out to put them in.
right.
And so at the very least, that's what I'm excited for because I feel like every year in college, the last couple of years, it's instead of talking about the football, we're talking about like, well, why didn't such and such team get in, or why did whatever else, and it kind of just eliminates that. So that's kind of my take.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to argue about, oh, I didn't get the 12th spot and I should have gotten the 12th spot, and
Yeah, it's like kick
that's not
rocks.
really an argument at all anyway.
yeah, it's
So
yeah, it's like you're arguing for scraps here. But I did want to segue you in. You have a you have a limited range take of the week that you're ready to talk
yeah, I
about.
just think you look at the guys in college that have run for 2,000 yards. Barry Sanders and a couple of others, and they've all won the Heisman. And Ashton Genty, runs for 2,100 yards or whatever he is, and he doesn't win the Heisman over a guy who's plays two positions pretty well, but I don't think he's not even a top 10 wide receiver. He won the Blitnikoff Award too, and the guy, I don't know, it's a guy from San Jose State or something like that, leads everybody in college football in receptions and yards and touchdowns. He doesn't even win. That guy doesn't even win the Blitnikoff. It's just a popularity contest. We all know it is. But I just think it's just limited. Come on. The guy ran for 2,000 yards. I think there's very few people that have run for 2,000 yards and not won the Heisman, and I think you deserve it. So again, it's like the NFL MVP. If they're going to give that, they basically everybody says it's going to be Josh Allen. So now it's just all a narrative, and we're not really fighting for it. So
On
they
a
should
side
give.
note, have you ever seen how stupid some of the old awards used to be, like in college and pro? Like, um,
Give me
I
an
remember,
example.
I think in like the 40s, I think it might have been Paul Horning.
Oh,
Like some of the especially Heisman. I don't know exactly about the NFL, but at the Heisman Trophy, like pre 2000, going back, there's some just abysmal Heisman Trophy winners. Like there's
yeah,
like I think like it was somebody for Notre Dame in like the 40s, and the team went like 4-8,
yeah.
and the
There's Paul
stats were
Horning.
yeah, and the stats were pedestrian at best, and he won the Heisman.
Yeah,
Or like the fact that I mean Archie Griffin had a good career. Don't get me wrong, but like for him to be what the only back-to-back Heisman winner, and he didn't. I mean, it says here in his senior season he won the award, rushing for 1,350 yards, and so he's still the only two-time Heisman winner, and he only ran for 1,350 yards. And even in his first season, it was 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns, and that's at a point in time when running the football was the primary way to move it. So, yeah, I just think that's kind of funny. But I agree with you on the whole Travis Hunter thing. I don't want to diminish. I think he's a really good football player, and the ability to play both sides is valuable. And I'm not making the claim that he shouldn't be in the running, but um, I think, like you said, I think he's the guy you're mentioning from San Jose State won the Triple Crown and didn't even win wide
The
receiver
best
award.
receiver.
I think there's a lot
And
of
Travis,
popularity in that stuff. And it's
yeah,
annoying. I get more annoyed, frankly, by the NFL system. But I was just talking about this the other day with a friend. It's way overdue that I know they don't want to mess with the history books. And that's important to these leagues, and I understand that. But there needs to be a reclassification or at least more specification into what these awards really mean. Like the NFL one really ticks me off because they're not doing anything to prevent that from being just a quarterback wins award. And it's so easy to there's the solution to that is so easy. Either you step in and you make it clear, here's what this award is for, the most outstanding player, or you just change the award and you make the MVP, the quarterback, best record award, and then you make a second, like, because I know they have offensive and defensive player of the year, but let's be honest, nobody cares about it.
right.
Um, they need to do something because it's like I was just talking about this the other day. We're in a passing league. We're in an offensive minded passing pass first league. You're never going to be able to compete with quarterback stats. I mean,
No.
McCaffrey had a tremendous year last year. Barkley this year is on pace to break uh, the all time. I don't know if he's still on pace after last week, but he was on pace to break the all time rushing record. Like, if you can have guys breaking records, breaking long-standing records and not winning the most valuable player, then that should be a huge red flag that you have to do something about the award.
I mean, the Eagles have been a franchise for what, at least 90 years. And he now holds the one game rushing record for the Eagles and the season rushing record for the Eagles, and he's not done yet. And so even
Right.
if it was a 14 game season, he would have he all those guys that played 12 or 14 games years and years ago, nobody ran for that much in one game. And like you said, 50 years ago, that's all they did was run the ball a lot of times. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but we're going to argue about the same thing. I don't know what you do about it. I guess just you don't really. It doesn't really.
I
It
guess
doesn't.
what
Just
you
doesn't
do
mean
about it
anything.
is you get on the Unlimited Range podcast and you air out your grievances. You air out your
Yeah.
grievances, and you just hope that maybe somebody at the top, for some reason, is checking out the Unlimited Range podcast, episode 24 specifically.
Let's just say for giggles' sake, let's just say it is a quarterback award, and you're not going to give it to Josh Allen because he's might be the best. I don't know, 10th best quarterback. Who do you? If you were going to give it to a quarterback this year, not named Josh Allen, who would you give it to?
Sam Darnold's stats are, and he was in the running, and I think got out of the running. And I think with him,
I
it's
don't.
stats more than kind of the stats are a little misleading. But they flashed his stats on what who did they just play? They were just playing
The
I'm
Bears.
blanking. Yeah, they were just playing the Bears, and they flashed his stats on there, and he's something like 29 or 30 touchdowns to 10 or 11 picks, a lot
Yeah.
of yards. Who's actually? I mean, Baker Mayfield has had
Yeah,
a
Baker's my answer. I would give it to Baker. I mean, what is
Baker's
Tampa
had a
Bay
hell of a
without
year.
Baker? I
Yeah,
mean,
Baker's had a hell of a year.
Baker had them in a game in Kansas City with they were down Mike Evans and well, obviously the guy from Penn
Godwin.
State's gone all year, Godwin. So he was throwing to like third string tight ends and stuff in a game in Kansas City on a Monday night. That was crazy.
Well,
I
and Burrow and I mean Burrow, you obviously have to, you couldn't because of the record, but I mean Burrow's been phenomenal. I mean Burrow's got his stats here. Burrow's almost 4,000 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 picks, with 107 QB rating.
yeah,
Um,
Chase. I mean, Chase is just off the charts.
Yeah, I mean,
I
so they're
mean,
not losing because of anything to do with the offense. It's all, I mean, almost 70% completion. So there's been some good. Yeah, I think they just need to branch out and make a. I don't know what you would call it, but I think they need to branch out and look. If a quarterback, my thing would be if a quarterback sweeps it and is and overall the best player, give him the quarterback award and the MVP. But
right.
I think if you had like a quarterback award, then you would be able to say, okay, this guy was the best quarterback, but this overall player was the best football player this year
Well,
because
I don't know. Maybe we should look up when they invented the MVP award for anything and what. I mean, because it is honestly the hardest thing to vote for. Like, how do you determine how
Well,
valuable somebody is?
because there's no parameters. Because back
Right.
whenever they started voting for MVP, you know what they did? They just got in a room and been like, "Ah, he's a good football player," and they just put him through. I mean, a kicker won back in the day. Um, so like, but now it's changed, and there hasn't been any. I just think they need to come out and clarify. To my knowledge, and maybe they give this to the voters behind the scenes, but to my knowledge, there doesn't. Everyone who votes seems to be making up their own rules. It's just like they're just and so there's and then that's how it ends up just being the same result every year. Whereas I
Well,
think they need to come out and put parameters around it and be like, this is what the MVP is.
if you were, like, so if you're in a fantasy, draft, I mean, number one, quarterbacks don't typically go even in the first couple of rounds because they're really a lot of them don't stand out from one another. I mean, so that's
The thing
if you're
is,
gonna go back and
you're never gonna be able to answer. Like, the problem is when people hear MVP, they vote based on exactly what it says, valuable, and you're never. It's just like with the war, like how war works in baseball and like how you measure
yeah,
it, or like on off in basketball. You're never going to be able to argue with the fact that a quarterback is more. That's why quarterbacks are taken in the top end of the first round, even when they suck, because it's like if this guy hits, it'll be more valuable than XYZ. So that's just my gripe with it. I think it should be changed to most outstanding player, and I think that would automatically do a ton of good because I think people get hung up on valuable. And if you change it to most outstanding player, it'd be very easy to be like, okay, this quarterback was great this year, but this other guy had an excellent year doing all these other things. But anyway,
yeah.
I think we spent too much time on that. Um, why don't we round out this week's pre-Christmas episode with unlimited? Oh, actually, before we do that, I wanted to add one thing. My unlimited range pick of the week is actually myself,
Oh,
because I threw a Christmas party. I had the playlist nice and curated, like we talked about. We had a gingerbread making competition, played some games, got the tree all decorated nice and good. So basically, I'm going to make myself the unlimited range player of the week for episode 24. But now we will pivot to finale. We have Dean's trivia question of the week, and the question was about a Japanese tradition of eating fast food on Christmas and what that establishment is. Is that correct?
it is. Do you have any guesses?
Well, I'm trying to think about what they do over there in Japan. I don't think they eat.
I'll give you a little hint.
Yeah, well, yeah.
What is the what might you eat here for Thanksgiving?
Well, in a traditional setting, I'd probably have a ham.
Or if you're not having a ham, what else do you think people have? Well, I'll give you a hint. That people, here might have turkey.
Yeah, I've never had it, but people
Like
might.
turkey. So
Turkey.
and somewhere a long time ago, somebody was in Japan. They don't really have turkey in Japan. So they were looking for some turkey, so they went for the next best alternative.
I'm wondering if it's KFC.
It is KFC. It is Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's where I'm trying to go with you. And they will stand outside in line to get them some Kentucky Fried Chicken at the in Japan for
That's
Christmas.
surprising because around here, I think most everybody's closed up shop for Christmas.
Yeah, no,
So
they have
I
to
don't know. Is it?
a lot of people pre-order it over there apparently. And if you're one of our international viewers, you might have known
You
that.
might
If
have
you did,
done it. You might
great.
have waited out in line for
Right?
a bucket of KFC chicken.
You might have been in Japan yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting side note. I've always wondered how KFC. I actually had a conversation with somebody a while back where I got into kind of a heated discussion because I said I don't know who's going to KFC. I never see anybody there. I haven't been there in probably 18 years. To me, it seems like I thought it was like maybe one of those illegal money laundering operations. I was like, nobody goes there, but maybe it's propped up by its international fan base.
It's not good these days. And no, we were over in England a couple years ago, and actually the KFC over there, we our English friends wanted to get some, and it was actually better than the last time I had it here, which had to be 15 or 20 years ago. It
Yeah. Yeah, you can learn a lot on the Unlimited Range podcast, and, today you were able to learn that, KFC has a longstanding tradition in Japan of, feeding families on Christmas.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good,
Yeah,
dude.
that's great. Well, do you have anything to close us out with?
No, I guess I'll be seeing you for Christmas, but enjoy your trip up north for with with
Natalie's family,
Natalie.
yeah. We're going to so yeah, we're signing out. We're going to Cincinnati this weekend, and then we're back celebrating Christmas here in Nashville with the family. So we will, I'm assuming, not be back here until after Christmas. So to our viewers and everyone else out there who celebrates Christmas, uh, be safe, have a Merry Christmas. And as always, we still have not received a single comment on any of our videos. Please, please, if even if it's just at this point, even if it's hate or
Yeah,
something
give
like
us
that,
yeah,
yeah, even if
throw
you want
something
to
out
just,
there.
yeah, even if you just want to like say these guys suck or something, at this point, that would still be something we would
You want to
accept.
make fun of my audio visual problems and lighting issues today, and I've got a whole
Any
different
press,
setup.
any press is better. What do they say? Bad press is better than no press. Is
No
that what?
press at all. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Bad
So
publicity is better than no publicity at all. So we'll take
yeah.
bad
So
pub.
we'll take what we can get, guys. Please, if you're checking this out, if you're watching us, just drop something down there. And yeah, but that's it for us today. And we will see y'all back here probably at the end of next week.
Merry Christmas, man.
Merry Christmas.